Okay. Well, this is not an apology video, but I am sorry. It is not lost on me what I did here as a YouTuber. Last year, 2023, I got like 7 brain leak patches, did so good updating you guys, and then just kind of dropped off the face of the planet in terms of updating you on that for like 8 or 9 months. And so this video is going to be finally an explanation as to why I felt the need to wait so long to talk to you, and hopefully bring you guys some understanding. Because the thing is, there was kind of some divine intervention, which was freaky deaky to me as a scientist, and so yeah. And my channel is super scientifically based. We're very like, let's look into the research. I'm like shaking thinking about sharing this with you guys because like I know a lot of you guys are scientifically based too. And I thought that God and science didn't get along, but here we are. And so anyway, we're going to be getting into a lot of things that are personal and deep, and I'm nervous to share, so please have an open mind. But there's also another big part of this that I am deciding to keep from you for this video because it's big. So make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell and keep your eyes peeled for a video called The Big Part I've Been Hiding From You. I'll play the song while you do that. If you're new here, I'll take a quick 30 seconds to orient you. My name is Jen. I'm a CSF leaker and I'm on my leak patching journey. I'm a CSF fistula type leaker, and we found them on myelograms that I did in September of 2023. I had some patches before that, I had some patches after that. Some of them were non-targeted, some of them were targeted, but in general, the patches have been helping me for about a month and then wearing off, or blowing. I call it blowing my patch. This all happened over like 6 months in 2023. I documented it all. I had an editor for YouTube. I was pumping out the content and you guys got all the updates. That was in my CSF leak playlist. I should put a card. I'll just put a card. But then my last patch happened the end of November 2023. My symptoms came back in December, January, and I dropped off the planet. So what happened? What was so different this time? Because one thing that is a little bit weird, if you are super familiar with my journey, is that the myelogram found 4 different spots, and we were trying to figure out which of the 4 spots is actually my problem spot. We're at the point where we narrowed it down to 2, and we had a game plan for narrowing it down the rest of the way, and what was going to happen after that. But then suddenly, in the middle of everything, after being gung-ho the whole process, suddenly I just, no more. What? I love this plan. This is logically the plan. Why am I not down with the plan? And it was God. It was a lot of God stuff. And just to be really vulnerable here for a moment, I'm really hesitant to share things online. I'm very timid about it because people are very judgy and I'm very sensitive. And so it just doesn't really work well for me to be a YouTuber, ironically. But I know it helps you guys. So like I try to show up. But the thing with this is like when everyone's telling you one thing and my symptoms and my doctors, and then I'm just kind of ignoring it, I didn't want to lead people astray. That felt very irresponsible for me to be talking about this before I really knew what was going on. But on the other side of the coin, I'm also not healed yet. I don't know where my story is totally going, and so I just, please just be careful with this. I need to be really, really careful about the balance between being super honest with you guys and letting you know enough that you can actually be up to date with my journey and let it impact your leak journey. At the same time, you guys have been here for me through the entire journey, and I really need to keep you guys updated. You guys are borderline like family to me. You're at least very close friends because you're some of the only people who actually truly understand what I'm going through. So I truly deeply from the bottom of my heart apologize for the wait. It's just been such an unprecedented and weird year, and then I think you're also going to be like really like, oh, duh, once you hear about my new diagnosis, which is the thing I've been hiding from you, which is coming in the next video. So subscribe. So all of that out of the way, I'm really excited to share this story with you and stop holding so much in and just have everybody know where we stand. Before I get into the meat of the video, I wanted to let you know I'm not the only one who's being made new in 2024. Our sponsor for this video today is SEPH, the migraine management device. I started using this device way back in 2018, way back in 2018 when my migraine abortive medications seemed to be causing more side effects than help. SEPH is a neuromodulation device that you put on your forehead, and it helps with both acute and preventative migraine treatment. I really love it because I tend to lean more natural when it comes to treatments for any illnesses, and I love that this is non-pharmacological. The device is not new, but their app is getting a whole new refresh, and guys, I've been beta testing it behind the scenes. The app got a complete overhaul. It looks different, it feels very clean, and it feels really modern. It's a really easy app for navigating yourself around. But the feature that I like the most about it is actually that it now has two-way communication with your cephally connected device. The previous version of the app did have Bluetooth connection, but it did not have two-way communication. And the two-way communication allows you to control the device through the app on your phone. You can start it, you can stop it, you can stabilize it, and you can ramp it up, all from the little buttons on the app. And with the new interface and the flow enhancements, that's all really easy to do. If you haven't grabbed your Cephally today, I have a couple of videos. I should link them down in the comments, or I'll stick a card here too. If you've never used Cephally, don't even know what that would look like, I recommend checking out my bedtime routine video, because that's the one where I show how I actually incorporate Cephally. If you're jumping on to use Cephally but you don't know how to use it yet, I have a very simple step-by-step how to use Cephally video as well. I will put a card for that here. And last but not least, I can't remember. Oh, duh. My discount code is momming with migraine, just like my handle, momming with migraine. So you can use my code, get the discount. When your device comes in, you'll have the how to use Cephally video all set, ready to go. And thank you so much, Cephally, for supporting my little channel and keeping these videos possible, and keeping my migraines at bay. Cephally has been working super hard behind the scenes to make this app, and I really love how through this beta testing process, I got to see truly how many little tiny details they've been tweaking and trying to make exactly right so as to benefit us as much as they can. And I gave them pages of feedback, and they took that feedback. And they were so grateful to be part of changing people's lives. Like, this is... Okay, stop swooning. Anyway, I love Cephally. Cephally, the device, has made so much of my life possible, and now Cephally, the company, is making some of my videos possible. So thank you guys again for the sponsor. Thank you, Cephally, because now I have to tell everyone everything that happened. Most of the year making these videos has not quite been possible to me. Let's get into that. We're going to start really obvious, and then we're going to go more obscure, the God stuff and the weird things. Personal challenges are an obvious reason that I had to take a really big break from YouTube in 2024. I don't remember how many interstate trips we had in 2023, but it was somewhere between 5 and 7, and it was with 2 toddlers and a service dog. Some of them I went alone with the 1 toddler, but they were still for surgeries. I burned out, straight up. And even with no travel, I have 2 kids that are 1 year apart. Right now they're 2.5 and 3.5. So at the time my last patch happened, they had just turned 2 and 3. They both have like Christmas, New Year birthdays. So like, it's been great, but it's a very busy time. And with baby B, our younger one, growing up, gaining her own opinions and her own preferences, and baby A turning 3 and really gaining her own personality and sense of self, I had to take a little bit of a step back from YouTube and focus on my family. The sibling fights, you can't really call it sibling fights at the toddler age, but the sibling fights, for lack of a better word, made it so that I was doing a lot of regulating them, and I had to step back and be regulating myself instead of making videos. And so my free time was going more toward regulating me and trying to help my toddlers find their emotional regulation while they were at this really fragile age, you know? But it was so much more than just these life factors. Those were already there. The thing is that when this patch blew, it was different. Something felt different about the way that it blew. But let me tell you, if I hadn't trusted God, things would have gone astray. Like clockwork, my symptoms came back a month after my last patch. Symptoms coming back in January, we went ahead and scheduled my next patch. Scheduling's like a month out, scheduled for February. I've literally never done a word for the year kind of thing that a lot of people do, but I decided for 2024 that my... Sorry, the things I never thought I'd be talking about. I'm very private and it's very uncomfortable to be saying this. I'm newly coming into my relationship with God, so for 2024 I decided I should have a word, and the word should be surrender, to remind me that I'm trying to give my life to something greater than me. I'm trying to put away my desires and do something bigger. So the dates for my scheduled patch kept getting closer and closer. And every single time I tried to book a flight, I would get interrupted by some kind of freak thing. Like the baby would wake up. Or like my phone would start restarting. Or like my husband would run into some kind of freak thing that I definitely needed to stop everything and I have to go help him real quick. Things that are like way too big to be coincidences because like 10 of them happened. 1 or 2 or 3 times you can brush it off, but when it happens like 10 times, it's like, why can't I book these flights? And when this started happening enough times, my gut started to feel like, okay, maybe I don't need to be trying so hard to book these flights. I think my gut started to kind of pick up on it. Mom life, I got stopped abruptly and now it's tomorrow. Try this again. The tricky part is going to be remembering where the heck I was. Oopsie. Turns out I did myself a solid and I highlighted where I had stopped. So I had a couple nudges from God that made me postpone the patches. And the word that I was hearing was wait. And my word for 2024 is surrender. So I did. I waited and I postponed my patches to March. I know that not everyone here is a believer. I'm a pretty new believer in a serious way. And so this was actually really freaky. And it was a really big leap of faith for me to actually do it. But anyway, I did decide to go big or go home. And God said wait, so I stayed home. And this is horrible medical advice. This is the opposite of good medical advice. And this is advice that is counter to what I wanted to do, counter what I felt in my body, counter to what my doctors were telling me to do. It was counter to everything. So this is horrible medical advice. But I just couldn't shake that weight. I couldn't shake it. And I had decided to be obedient, and I'm stubborn. So if I decided it, I decided it. So here we are. Something I know I really thrive on when it comes to my God relationship, which by the way is the missing piece. I didn't realize it was like a relationship with emotions and feelings. It's weird. The more I waited and the more patient I was, and honestly, the better my mood was about it, the better my outlook was about it, the more little signs I started seeing that things were going to be okay even if I didn't get the patch. And during this time, I started actually sometimes having some high pressure moments, especially when I was laying down. Like, I was starting to get flashing lights sometimes, but most of the time I was still low pressure. And by the way, it can be really difficult to know whether or not you're in high pressure or why do I always go or low pressure. It can be really hard to know whether you're in high pressure or low pressure. So I did make a video detailing my symptoms in each of the 2 stages. So it's stages, each of the 2 pressures. It's not conditions, situations, I don't even want to know for the video, I just want to know for my own curiosity, so if you could please wait. What, condition? Is condition what I was thinking? The place your brain's at, your pressure. It of course varies patient to patient, but you can see my list at that card. So a lot of times when it came to this, I was pretty angry. Like I said, it was against everything, so I was angry, and I was in tears, and I was crying, and this really was a wrestling thing for me. But I was also starting to see that waiting was doing something positive, even though it was painstakingly slowly. So I just kept waiting. My patches ended up being scheduled for February, March, April, and May. And let's see, when May came, I wrote, it became easier to become waiting. It became easier to keep waiting. I want to keep a lot of things private, but these nudges ended up giving me information that I couldn't have possibly known and my doctors couldn't have known. So that's really weird. This sounds really crazy, but what I did here was I basically just took the Bible at its word. It said, if you're feeling low, when you're weary and you're weak, if you call out to God, He'll come to you. Like, He comes closer to the weaker. He'll be there for you. So if you call out to God when you're low, He's coming. And I was like, hey, that's me right now without my brain fluid. Big guy, like, what's up? Right? And I'm being obedient. Like, I finally felt like I was, like, in this good place. And I really feel like He showed up in those moments, which is crazy. And it's becoming so easy to praise during storms now, even though storms are still heavy. So then May came, and it became easier to keep waiting. I want to read this one. I want to keep a lot of things private, but the nudges that I was getting ended up giving me information that I literally couldn't have known if it wasn't an intervention of some kind. My doctors couldn't have known. I couldn't have known. It involved running into random people at random times and them just knowing things. It's all really weird. I'm still making sense of it all, but I'm super scientific. You guys know that. And this is like a lot more than just coincidences. So I don't know what changed in my head, like if anything actually happened, but at a certain point I was like, why am I postponing? Why don't I cancel? I'll just get off the books. Let's just stop, and I'll wait until I get a nudge that I should put it back on the books, because at this point it was getting a little bit ridiculous. And then that Sunday at church, a young 21-year-old man who's on the worship team walked up to my husband and I at the end of the service. And we've never met him before. He doesn't know us. But he came up to us and he was like, oh, I'm getting like chills thinking about it. He said, I don't know why you guys stood out to me, but I was wondering if is there something going on right now? Like, can I pray for you? Is there something going on? And I was like, actually, yeah, I'm going through this crazy medical thing. It's crazy that you would come and ask me about that, because literally for the first time ever, I'm secretly going through a me and God wrestling through my medical thing that's been going on for the last 6 months. So how is it that you came over here to ask me that after I just did something radical last week in the name of what? Okay, so then this was happening. This kid's 21. Anyway, so he's praying and he's like, I'll skip the stuff, but a word that stood out was reveal. He was like, please reveal. And then that week, some things started becoming really clear to me. Things like that my symptom profile has radically changed. And I'm starting to think that maybe my fistula's patched. And now I just have something else going on. Anyway, hold on. I'm getting off track. Let me get back to my story. Okay, I wasn't sure if I was going to share what I actually think might be going on, but you know what? More brains is better than just mine, so please let me know if you know anything about this. That week I got a random email or like a text from a friend about tethered cord syndrome. Oh no, it was a random email from a follower. Random follower sent me a message and said, hey, have you heard of tethered cord syndrome? I did notice that I do fit some of the symptoms, and like fitting some doesn't mean that I have it. But what's interesting about considering me and tethered cord is that, especially after all of these patches, I'm also at risk of arachnoiditis, which is like almost the same thing except for surgery induced. Like, it's nuanced, but the effect is the same. I'm not saying they're actually the same thing. The effect of it is sort of the same, where like there's a pulling of your spinal cord going on. So I thought, you know what, I don't want to do this again. I don't want to do this again where I'm jumping ship and switching diagnoses, but this is kind of what keeps happening is like, whatever is my most obvious diagnosis is the one that we diagnose, and we've kind of been working our way down the chain, working our way backwards to what's actually underlying everything. So get this, I had a bad lower back injury when I was in 8th grade. And after that lower back injury, I started having numbness and tingling in my left leg especially, but both legs. And that was when I lost a lot of, this is so TMI, my function for pooping is normal, but my sensation isn't the same sense. And some other weird things that just, they don't get in the way of my life, but like the backs of my legs tends to feel kind of weird, and it all fit into this neurological stuff, but you know what? It is a little bit weird. I noticed things like that. I started to think back, I do have issues with if I walk for a long time, my lower back is in pain. That doesn't mean tethered cord syndrome, but it could be that something down there is grinding. We do have MRIs from prior to any of my lumbar punctures and transforaminal punctures. I've gotten dozens of needles in my back at this point, so any of those could also be tethering, but we should also look at the MRIs from prior to the needles. Are my thoughts all over the place? I'm really sorry if they are. I'm just trying to blurt it. I am trying to follow this, but I'm also trying to just blurt it. Now let's back up to back in January when my patch blew. The other thing that happened in January was my 4 to 6 weeks of no BLT ended. So after my patch, I'm really well behaved. I don't do a lot of bending, lifting, twisting. I'm like nursing my back and staying really straight. But then after the 4 weeks ends, I start kind of gradually getting back to activity. And if getting back to activity was causing problems, then I'd say, hey, I'm having my upright issues again. But in the past, I was doing a lot of like breastfeeding. I was sitting and nursing a lot. And so sitting up And then getting symptoms, I'm like, oh shoot, I'm upright, so I'm getting my symptoms again. But now my babies are a little bit older and I'm maybe patched. So instead of sitting a lot and nursing and being too potsy to be standing up all the time, I'm actually just like up walking around all the time. And as long as I'm careful to be standing up, I'm okay. But then sitting down, I have a lot of problems. And I specifically have a lot of problems if I'm sitting down and my left leg is forward. So I started to treat myself as a tethered cord patient instead of a leak patient, which is a lot of the same things. Like, I'm trying to avoid bending down and standing back up because the bending down would be a pulling sensation. Oh, I forgot to mention, that pulling sensation, I started getting that 8th grade when they said it was lower back stress fractures was what they told me at the doctor. I need to go back to those notes. Oh, and I had a positive stork test, which means the tailbone's not moving right. We need to look into this, I think. We really need to look into this. So right now, it's summertime. I'm out at splash pads with my babies. I'm having all sorts of fun. I'm really healthy and I'm doing well, but I'm also kind of tormented in my head trying to figure out my symptoms. I'm still having weird random symptoms, but I don't really know quite where they're coming from. And a lot of my symptoms right now are that left leg numbness, which is really cool because at least I'm like up and talking and cognitive, and that's all I want. I mean, shoot, you guys saw how I was a few years ago. I was on the floor. So sitting is a problem a lot of the time, but standing I can do, and that's a really big change. So I really do think that I'm patched, or mostly patched. Also, another thing that's interesting, I'm going on these little tangents, but I feel like you guys are the types of people who are going to appreciate it. I was thinking, if that fracture happened in 8th grade and it got my spinal cord like attached or something during that tension in my spinal cord, in my mind anyway, I see how that could make it more likely that I would have ended up with those 4 CSF venous fistulas. Because if you take something and you're holding it tight and then it bumps the side of your spine even a little bit, that's going to be much more likely to cause a tear than if that's a loose band and the spine is moving, because then it's just wiggling and they're like, whatever. So to me, all of this is really connecting. And so even though I feel really awkward and uncomfortable coming on here and changing my mind again, all of these dots are lining up. And all of it has this underlying issue of me being too hypermobile. I just think it's very, very interesting. I can totally see how fracturing my back made my spinal cord be a little bit weird, and then I got a leak here or a small leak there along the way. I started getting migraines, I started getting treated for the migraines, I started getting chronic stress related issues, the gut issues, the thyroid issues, the hair loss issues that have started to come in since it's been these chronic migraines. And I think this is all going back to 8th grade and my injury, which is nuts. So I'm just really grateful that we're here. I'm really grateful that we've found so many answers. I think you guys can probably see it, that I'm doing really well. My face feels good. I even feel like I'm getting a lot of structure changes to my face as it's relaxing and not like needing to protect itself so much. My whole like head and neck is just, everything's getting better. This is partially due to the tongue tie release that I got a couple of years ago. I'll put a card for that on the end screen. Now, if I am still leaking, to be honest, I'm kind of a little bit okay with that because I am still having some high pressure days, and I really highly prefer being in low pressure to being in high pressure. Sorry I used the word highly in that sentence. I much prefer low pressure to high pressure. I'm at a point where I'm functional enough that I don't want to patch myself into high pressure and be stuck there because of the kink in my neck and the way that things tend to build. I really prefer the symptoms of low pressure to the symptoms of high pressure, and when I'm in low pressure, I feel like there's a lot of things that I can do about it, whereas when I'm in high pressure, I feel like I'm just stuck and confused and in a ton of pain, and I don't have as many methods to... my tongue whistled. I don't have as many methods to kind of combat that. With the leak, I can always lay down. With the high pressure, I'm like, oh, just agony. Any advice that you give me in the comments today is absolutely solicited. My CSF leak doctor is not the doctor who would be able to help me with tethered cord or with arachnoiditis, so let me know what you guys think I should do next in terms of those. I'm really curious your thoughts, especially if you've been in this situation before, because please help. I would love to hear your experience with these, because there just aren't that many people who like have been through all this and understand and know how to help. I'm still medication free. I'm doing just cephaly and ginger tea, and taking care of 2 toddlers full time, kicking butt. And that means there's hope for you too. So stick around, and I'm just gonna keep sharing my secrets and sharing what I know. Spilling tea, ginger tea.